How do we find peace right here and now? How do we quiet our mind? How do we find stillness? This is what this video or podcast, depending on what you're viewing or listening to this on, this is what we're all about. This is what I write books about, basically, is about finding peace, finding our inner heaven right here and right now. And it is possible for all of us. There just may be different ways that we resonate with or that we enjoy more that we use to be able to do this. And so we're going to talk about three ways that I really like as far as finding peace that have really worked for me and hopefully will work for you. And so I know if you do them right, they will work for you. You just have to work on finding the joy within these methods, the present moment, the inner stillness that is a part of these methods. And so the first method I'll talk about is very simple. Actually, all of these methods are very simple, just not always easy. So they do take practice. But the first method I'll talk about is breathing. So think of your thoughts right now. You have thoughts that come in and out of your awareness, going who knows where, coming from who knows where. And they come up constantly. And we're always giving them attention. Attention is like our life force. It's our power. And so we're always giving each thought that comes up our attention. And so they're always coming up all day. And I'm not saying they're bad. They're very helpful. Thoughts are good for a lot of things. And we think all the time. And thoughts are going to come no matter what. I think that's the issue sometimes with meditation is people think that thoughts are somehow just going to stop when they start meditating. Well, that's the practice, is you're practicing using your attention to bring them off of all the thoughts, whether they're pictures or voices or whatever your mind is made up of. It doesn't necessarily matter the content. It matters more the fact that you're able to direct your attention away from all your thoughts going on, the chatter, and going on to something abstract like the breath. So breathing is a very, very simple and a very common way people meditate because it's very abstract. If you focus on the breath, your mind starts to silence itself, because what's happening is you're taking your attention away from these thoughts. You're taking your life force, your energy away from these thoughts. You're always giving energy into excuse me. And so once you're able to keep your attention to something like the breath, after a while, these thoughts stop coming up, or at least, in other words, thoughts don't seem to come up because you stopped giving them attention. And so because you stopped giving your own thoughts your attention, all you're focused on is something like your breath. And so a very easy way to do this, I had to start out by mentally saying in and out in my head while I breathed. This doesn't mean necessarily have to change the way you breathe. Just observe your breath the way it is. And as you inhale, say in your head. As you exhale, say out in your head. And after a while, with enough practice, I started out doing this about 20 minutes a day. And after a while, with enough practice, you don't need to have in and out in your head anymore. You just focus on the act of breathing. And for me, what's been very helpful is focus on the act of breathing within my nostrils, just because I enjoy nose breathing more than I enjoy mouth breathing. And so you can just pay attention to the breath going in and out of your nose. And it's extremely subtle, but I mean, so is your thoughts. And so if you're able to pay attention to something so subtle and take your mind off of your thoughts, then this method is going to prove to be very helpful. But it does take a lot of practice. But once you get the hang of it, it's very helpful because you can do this at work, you can do this at home, you can do this wherever the heck you want. And that's really nice, super helpful. So focusing on the breath is one great way to find inner stillness very quickly, because something I'm going to go over in this video many times is the fact that heaven or peace or the present moment, whatever you want to call it, isn't something that you actually achieve. It's something that's already here, but we've lost it because we became to be less mindful as us human creatures. We love to think, we love to do this, we love to do that. We distract ourselves, which isn't bad or good. I'm not going to put a judgment value on it, but it is something that's distraction from the present moment. There's a silence in between each thought that is presence, it's stillness, it's peace, it's love, God, whatever you want to call it, but it is there. And we find that through being still, through being peaceful. So hopefully breathing and just paying attention to your breath is one way that can help you. There's another really quick way to help out just with physiological stress. So let's say, for example, that maybe you're very stressed and you're having a very hard time and you need peace right now and right this second. And let's say maybe you're going through a very hard time, maybe you're traumatized by something, whatever it is. Maybe it's more serious than simply just being a little anxious. You can do this practice called a physiological sigh. And this is something that will really help you to calm down quickly. So the physiological side, maybe you've heard of it if you listen to Andrew Huberman. He's the one who made this popular. Of course, he's the one who I learned this from, but it's been very helpful for me, especially if I'm in a very immediate and very stressful situation. So the physiological side goes like this. You breathe in, and then you're going to take one other quick, deep inhale real quick. And then you're going to go and exhale. You're going to let all the air out. So, of course, I did it kind of quicker. But again, it goes like this. And get the little last bit of air. And then all out. And after, that's a very quick method of finding the present moment. But as you do that, you just focus on the breathing, the act of breathing itself. It should be very helpful. And so that's another practice you can do as far as breathing goes. Now, this next thing that we're going to talk about is a little more, it can be very hard, especially in times like this when it's very easy for us sometimes to see what we could call evil or what we could call wrongdoings by people or even by ourselves, and that is forgiveness. When you think of the word forgiveness, you probably maybe think of Jesus or the Bible, maybe a religious aspect comes up in your mind. But I want to help you to see forgiveness as something a little more than just something a part of a story or just simply forgiving someone who hurt us. Forgiveness to me is actually seeing life just the way it is. Because in order for us to have to forgive something, we must have judged it beforehand. And so the whole universe, life without our judgments is, of course, just the way it actually is. It's our own judgments in our mind that block us from being more mindful, more present. And so, of course, if you are a Christian or you read the Bible, then you know it says, Jesus talks about this multiple times. I'm not going to go too religious with this, but to use as an example, Jesus does say that with what measure that we're going to measure others, we are also measured. And to me, he didn't necessarily mean that he was going to come down and do it himself. It actually meant that we were going to end up measuring ourselves just by me measuring someone else. So if I'm ready to judge someone, that judgment passes through me first before it can go to anyone else. And so the same judgment that I judge others with, I've also judged myself. So actually, Jesus doesn't need to do anything. I've done it to myself. I've already done all the harm that I can by having my judgments remove me from the present moment, from stillness, from God, from love, whatever you want to call it. And so forgiveness is ultimately giving up the judgments that we made, whether it's about ourselves or others. And when we give up those judgments, of course, is very freeing. I think the issue with forgiveness sometimes is people think that forgiveness means that we're freeing the other person, or if they harm us, then we forgive them. It means somehow we're letting them hurt us and hurt others. And that's not necessarily so. We can still have boundaries with others, but we can also forgive them at the same time. We give up our judgments of them when we realize that their behaviors, whatever a human being has done to you or whatever you've done to yourself or whatever you've done to others, at that moment, that is the best you can do. We're all doing the best we can do. And sometimes our best can be seen as very wrong, very hurtful, or very evil. And we got to get rid of those judgments, because ultimately everything we do comes out of our inner being. And sometimes what we do doesn't live up to the ideal self that we have in our mind, this idea or sense of self or ego that we have. And because of this, we end up putting more judgments on ourselves, like, why did I do X, Y, Z? Why did I say this to so-and-so? Whatever it is. And ultimately, we're always doing our best, even if other people don't think so, or if we have a judgment in our mind that we are not doing our best. And so all of us are trying to survive. We're all trying to help ourselves, help each other. And some people think that they must harm others in order to get that to survive. And that is their problem, not ours. Our problem is the fact that we judged ourselves or someone else. And so we must give up those judgments, and that is forgiveness. So forgiveness ultimately is actually just seeing life as it is without our judgments. And so this has become very helpful in my life. And I have many examples of this in the book called Stop Waiting for Heaven that I wrote this past summer. I finally finished writing it. And I actually have a link for it in the description below. But anyway, Forgiveness has been a huge blessing in my life. It's been very, very helpful to give up judgments that I judge myself with or others. So that is a very quick way to help still the mind and find peace, inner peace. And finally, this kind of goes along with forgiveness, but forgiveness helps us to find love. It helps us to find, or love can also be called God, it can also be called your higher power, universe, your divinity, however you want to see it. And so finding love, finding God, giving up our judgments, it requires an act of surrendering to the present moment. Whether your day to day has been going very well or not so well, depending, of course, on how you judge it, then it needs your forgiveness. And then once you forgive it, you surrender into this present moment, and you find that there's an underlying peace, underlying love in everything in life. No matter how you think your day is going today, it's always there. If we call this God, if you're comfortable with that word, or your higher power, then you realize that it's something that actually has never left you. You're the one who leaves it. And it is something that is actually intrinsically you. You are the same thing. You are that higher power, that consciousness, but you are a manifestation of it. And so it's your judgments that keeps you separate from the present moment, from God, from love, however you choose to see it. And so when we look upon things that maybe look evil or wrong, it's more like we're looking at a shadow of something. And so light, of course, is everywhere, but a shadow, we can't deny that a shadow exists. For example, I'm seeing shadows of my backyard fence right now. There's a shadow there. I can't deny that I'd see a shadow, but the shadow itself isn't actually real. If I go to investigate it, there's only light. And so this is the same with love or with God, where love is all that actually exists. But because of our judgments, we think that the shadow or sin or evil is actually real. And even though we can't deny the outcomes of evil doing, wrongdoing, we realize when we go investigate it, it's actually not real. It's an illusion. And so all there really is love, God, presence. That's all there is. But because of our mental judgments, our egos, sometimes we get lost in the illusion that there is a shadow, there is sin, there is evil, and we get really stuck in that. We feel alone. But ultimately, we can find peace by forgiveness, through loving, through surrendering, through a simple act of focus on our breath and not all of our judgments in our mind. Doing all these things will help us to find the heaven within, the heaven around. It's all here. It's all here for us to discover. It's not something that we can't find. It's something we can actually find right in this moment. And honestly, you'll only ever find it right now, right in this moment. And if none of these things helped you, then you can go and check my book. My book is all about finding heaven, finding peace, finding love. And again, it's not something you're achieving. It's actually something you're just rediscovering. It's something that you've known, deep down, and it is there. So I hope some of these things, though, have helped you. And these are really quick ways, without ever having to read my book, these are really quick ways that'll help you find peace right here and right now. All right, guys, if you enjoy this video, be sure to do all the cool stuff like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And if not, oh well, it doesn't matter to me. All right, much love to all of you that watch this and participate in this. I hope you have found peace today. We'll see you. Bye.